Hey, guess what time it is? It's time for Breedinum Radio. Brought to you by Pertnier Outdoors. This is a spring edition, which means it's turkey season, which means there's turkeys out there breeding them. Like getting on top and breeding them. That's what turkeys do. It's pretty cool if you've ever seen it. But anyway, listen to these stories. These are real people from right around the corner who are going out there putting turkeys on the ground. They ain't breeding them no more. You know what I'm saying?
What up? Billy here, introducing, I guess this is week 3, part 1 of Breedinum Radio. Big Jim loves to talk and tell everybody every hunting story he's ever had. So these conversations are going a bit long, so I decided I'm going to break these up a little bit. So the first one here is with Justin Patterson out of up the St. Lawrence Valley, up towards the Canadian area up there, the far north, eh? And that's where Justin hails and where he does a lot of his hunting. So he was on with us back in the fall for Breedinum Radio to tell the story about the berry shot. And so we got him back on here to share his turkey hunting story. So him and Jim kind of go down some other paths too and talk about some other things, talk about social media and hunting and some of the stuff that's out there. And been some pretty disgusting posts, especially on Facebook lately with some of these New York outdoor groups. Just not real impressed by that, and that the fact that these people are allowing these posts to stay up there. So they kind of talked a little bit about their feelings of that, and kind of just their feelings about harvesting animals and things like that. Wasn't really expecting their conversation to go that direction, but they put a great one together. So I'm gonna have this be a separate episode, and I'll let you enjoy. So check Justin out. He posts some pretty fun stuff up on Instagram. I believe it's Mountain Man Justin. I'll tag him on the Instagram post so you can check him out. But good kid. Seems like a guy that's got a lot in common with us, and I think he's pretty big into bass fishing too, so he's about to get started with that. So looking forward to talking to him later this spring and summer as he gets after the old large and smallmouth. So, all right, enjoy the episode. Thanks.
Keep breeding them and feeding them.
Alrighty, we are back here with Breedinum Radio, and this week I got Justin Patterson on. I believe you were on week 7 of Breedinum Radio in the fall. I think you shared your was it your bear kill that you shared?
Yeah, it was the bear I got last fall.
Very nice. So you do a lot of hunting in the Adirondacks. Was a hunt club or something?
Yep. The Stillwater Club of Canton, New York is our.
Okay. Is that where you got this bird, or was that a different
No,
spot?
this is in the St. Lawrence Valley is where I shot this bird.
Gotcha.
Close to my turkey hunting on public land. I guess it would be around the edge of the St. Lawrence Valley in St. Lawrence County. This was actually in the property, my dad's property behind my house. There's about 300 acres.
Very nice.
Yeah, I don't typically hunt back there. I like the challenge and the run and gun tactics of state land hunting. But,
Are you around Chameau Bay at all?
that's an hour away.
Hour away.
Yeah.
My buddy's got a camp back on the river there, and we used to go up there Memorial Day weekend, and we'd be going down the river bass fishing, and there'd be freaking turkeys everywhere just gobbling their heads off. And I'm like, why am I not turkey hunting right now?
Yeah, it's a nice area over there.
Yeah, it is. So was that your first bird, or was that your second bird?
First bird. Yeah.
So what day was that? That was the 17th, right?
Yeah, it was the 17th, Sunday. It was my
Very
sixth
nice.
day hunting. It's been tough. They gobbled in the trees a little bit. They hit the ground. They shut up. I don't know. And that day, I had 6 toms going at once. I mean, the ones I could hear. There were 6 different birds. It sounded like 20 years ago. I remember being a kid walking out and there's just birds everywhere gobbling.
Yeah.
And the season wasn't very old then either.
Right. Yeah, last year, I mean, we had birds going freaking every which direction, and this year we can't buy one. So
It was like this up here last year too, it seemed like. For us,
Yeah.
anyway, it's cold until the end of the season.
So I was actually seeing quite a few around like early, March and April. I'm like, man, it's going to be a fantastic year.
Mm-hmm.
And then we hit May 1st and sitting there watching the sunrise, twiddling my fingers going, where's the turkeys now?
I think it snowed here on May 15th.
Yeah.
And just you can't blame the turkeys for not wanting to go. But I am seeing now, so I mean, I like the second half of the season anyway.
See, normally I'm a first half of the season guy, but now I'm like super excited for the second half because I feel like we've missed out on a lot. So
yeah.
I actually got the next 5 days off to go after them. So
perfect.
Yeah. So do you have those birds roosted, or were they just going in blind?
Sorta. I was working around the house the night before, and I walked out of the house, and I heard turkey gobble. And I knew right where he was, probably 100, 150 yards off a food plot my dad keeps, right tucked between kind of some open popple and cedars. And so I walked to the edge of my lawn. I throw out an owl call, and it sounded like 4 of them went all at once, and they just started gobbling at each other. So I'm like, well, my yard's tore up. All my stuff is breaking, so I'm just going to go after these birds in the morning. It's right behind the house. Hopefully I can get a quick one down and one under my belt. So that's what I did. I got up early, and I set up right in that food plot, thinking that they're going to be 100 yards away, first open clearing, and hopefully they're going to go into it first thing in the morning, which didn't happen at all. But that's how.
Yeah, every time you think you got it planned right out, it doesn't happen.
And I hate hunting like that. I'm not one to roost birds and get in there. I'm a hike in, listen for them, and go after them. I think it's a lot more entertaining.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking while I'm sitting there underneath this cedar tree, and I have a hen in the breeding position with a Jake right behind her. And my goal is just to piss these birds off, get them to come in.
All right, folks. Sorry about that. We had a little technical difficulties. I believe we were just the part you were saying you were going to try to get in there and get them all riled up, get them pissed off, and bring them all right into you.
Yeah. So there's 3 or 4 toms up in the trees, 100, 150 yards away on the edge of this food plot. Hen and Jake out there 20 yards from me, decoys. And it's right about that time they're going to start gobbling. They start. I don't remember what time it was, but it seemed like they gobbled forever. And then a bird on the neighbor's go, and all 3 birds, they gobble. A bird across the road the other direction, he gobbles. All 3 of my birds gobble. It seemed like 45 minutes. It was probably 20. And then they finally get out. I do a light tree yell and nothing. I couldn't believe it. If they're that riled up, why aren't they? They should just gobble at any noise they hear. They're gobbling at train in Canada. So nothing. They don't gobble at me. And after a little bit longer, they're still in the trees. I give another light tree yelp, fly down, cackle, and they gobble at me. And then they kind of get quiet. Then they're on the ground. I never heard them pitch down or nothing. And now they're going the opposite direction towards this bigger field. So I'm thinking, well, there could be a single bird left that's working in. And I almost got up. I'm like, no, I should wait another half hour. There could be a bird working in silent to me.
Yeah.
And I said, no, that's not my style. I'm waiting for no one. So I grabbed the decoys, and I've lived here my whole life, 30 years. So I just kind of take the dry route over to the edge of this field. And the higher half of the field is fresh planted corn. And the lower half is, I think it's rye my dad put in last year. So it's all green, nice, about a foot high. At the edge of there's cedars right before the field. I drop the decoys and I creep to like 20 feet to the edge of the field. And I find a nice spot to sit down, put my left shoulder right into a little cedar tree. And I can hear them in the fresh planted corn gobbling. And there's a property line with a tree line, and another bird gobbles. And that was a really good gobble. I'd like to see that bird. and then my 3 birds would gobble. And I still can't see my toms yet. And so I kind of let everything settle after me walking in. These birds are gobbling back and forth. I give them a handful of cuts and a yelp, and they gobble at me, but not really too interested. They just gobble. And then they start having this pissing match again with this bird on the other property line. And now they're inching into the middle of the field. I can see 2 of them. And that bird sounds like he's coming closer. I'm like, this can't be for real. They're 3 toms all alone. They want nothing to do with me.
Right.
And so I'm thinking, well, if these guys want a pissing match, I'm going to give it to them. And I pull my gobble call out of my vest, reach it behind me, and I hit them with a little Jake gobble. And you know when you catch that turkey off guard and they give you the look, and he drops his tail feathers, the one I could really see, and he turns his head, and he gives me that side eye. Just like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Then he kind of goes back into strut, and they start having this pissing match again. And so I hit him with it. I let the single tom go. My toms went, and then I gobbled. And he did the same thing, and then I see one break away and start coming to me, zigzagging right to me. And I still find it amazing that when they hear you, they know exactly where you are.
Oh, yeah, that's unbelievable. What are you using for a gobble?
I think it's a HS strut.
Just like the flex
one of the shake ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I usually use a diaphragm, but in this case, being alone today, I usually hunt with a partner. I needed both my hands to hold the gun. So
yeah, no, I've tried it with my diaphragm before, and it for sure sounds half-assed, but
yeah,
it works.
Yeah. So he pretty much on a string, zigzagged a little bit, head bobbing just like this, and I let him get to 40 yards. 35 yards, and I took him. I had a hard time seeing the beard at first, and then he turned, and you could see he had a long beard, and I think there was a bigger one with him, but at day 17 of the season, I wasn't going to let any long beard go. He had it almost a 9-inch beard on him, so
right.
It was a good time.
I've had the conversations that I don't even know if I would pass a Jake right now for my first bird.
Oh, yeah. Halfway through the season, I shoot a Jake.
Yeah. Normally, I've done it on the first day. I've shot a Jake on the first day, but normally I'm kind of like, I'm going to get one bird down, then I'm going to worry about a longbeard. And then this year, with how much extra time I got, I was like, I'll just wait for longbeards. And now I'm like, if I see a beard and I get a bird to play, it's going to happen.
Have you had any Jakes come into you yet?
No, I haven't had a single bird in range yet.
This is my first time in range. We've called in nothing but hens.
Exactly. That's the only thing I've called in this year is hens.
Yeah.
So that corn that was planted, is that corn you guys planted, or is that corn that farmer planted?
A farmer that my dad lets plant.
Are they feeding in there pretty heavy, or?
I saw them in there before it was planted in April when I was cutting firewood. They've always used that field as a strut zone, kind of. There's a few different ones. So I don't really know. I haven't been keeping tabs on these birds. I literally only went after them because they gobbled behind the house.
Yeah. I mean, the only spot the spot that I always hunt, that there's just always birds in there, they're not there this year. And I think my buddy caught them in there one morning, and then they headed back north, and we haven't heard them since. So I moved. I got a Spy Point trail cam, the cell cam, and I moved it. It was down on our property, like mile and a half away. So I grabbed it, and I was like, if I'm going to be running a cell cam right now, pictures of deer aren't doing me any good. So I went down and got it and put it on this field, and been there for a day or two. I didn't get any birds yet, but they were in there yesterday and today, and they tilled it all up and planted corn in there. So I'm hoping with that fresh till and some planted corn, it'll give them a reason to get out there and start rooting around and feeding.
Yeah.
But because the other property that we're hunting is like probably like a mile away as the crow flies, and it's on the same crest, but it's further around the hill, and there's birds all over there.
Mm-hmm.
I messed up over there last Sunday. Something happened. The two hens were coming in, and the gobbler was strutting and gobbling behind them, and they were going to end up right in the field in our laps. And we weren't even calling. And I don't know if it was when I moved to turn the camera on or what, but one of the hens got real squirrely and went right back to where they came from. And that Tom he never came out of strut, but he just turned right around and followed her back down the ridge, and we never saw him again. We heard him gobble a couple more times, and that was it. So my buddy was in. Go ahead.
No, that's awful. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I was so depressed. I was like, the first opportunity that we're about to get all season, and the hen just got squirrely and ran off. And I literally, if I moved 6 inches super slow with my hand, I'm like, did she even catch that, or was it just something else that spooked her? I don't know. But my buddy was back in there today, and there was 7 jakes in there, and he said screw it and took a shot, and he missed. So I'm like, you couldn't catch one of them? 7 of them bopping around in there. So we're going there tomorrow morning. So I'm hoping we can get into something. But the 7 jakes, I mean, it's hard to believe there's 7 jakes in there and they're not gobbling. He said that whole group didn't gobble once. He said there was a big bird on the limb. They gobbled a few times. When he came down, he gobbled like once or twice more, and that was it. And then he was just sitting there waiting, and that's when all the jakes came in. So we're gonna get back in there tomorrow, and I think there's 3 good birds in that spot. So he said the wind was too bad on top of the hill, so he dropped down in, and that's where he ran into the other stuff. But up on top of the hill is where the big one's been coming out. So hopefully tomorrow is not too windy in the morning.
Yeah, we had a hen run off with a couple toms first week of the season, I think. And the toms finally started. We called them from the other side of this field. We're hunting public land, and they're on these private land green fields. And I had nice video footage of the hens, and they come right in front of us, and I'm trying to piss them off with cuts, trying to get them to come closer. They just laid down right in front of us, about 100 yards. And once those toms got too close, they stood up and ran into the center of the field. Like, you got to be kidding me. We finally got one to break away, and the way the ridge runs, there's a point going into the field. We couldn't see the other tom, but we could hear him getting close, and he had to have been 40 yards just overside of this field. And I look out into the field, and here comes this fox running right through the middle of it. All the turkeys went the other direction.
There's so many factors that play into just making it all happen right. That, a morning like you had where, they sound off, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. It's like, those are the mornings that are almost rare to find that used to be normal,
Even when they don't gobble, this time of year, being in the woods first thing in the morning, you're bound to see something cool.
Yeah.
Whether it's, songbirds flying around or, ducks and geese, swans. There's just everything's out and moving.
Well, I mean, last Friday I ran out. I took Wednesday off, worked Friday. So I ran out quick before work, and I'm like, I'm not going to even try to set up and hunt anything. I just want to go sit in the middle of this woods that we've been waiting for him to show up in. I'm just going to run in there and see if I hear any gobbles off a roost, and then I'll run out. And I actually sat right in one of the kids' ladder stands that's in there, because I'm like, I'm not really trying to hunt. So I'm like, I'll just hop up in this ladder stand and hang out for the first half hour and then bail out. And I'm sitting there listening, didn't hear any gobbles. And I just happened to look to the south of me, and there was a coyote. And he ran in probably like 60 yards and then came at me. And then when he hit my boot track from walking in, he freaking split. Like, it's the second that his nose hit that. I mean, I'm wearing rubber boots. You wouldn't think you'd be leaving that much sense, but he hit that track that I walked in. He was coming right towards me, and he hit that track that I walked in on. He freaking split. But like you said, I mean, you're waking up with the woods. You're always going to see something.
Yeah. Definitely a great time of year to be out there.
Yeah. So have you been out much since or no?
No, that was the last day I've hunted. So I have 3-day weekend coming up. My buddy, my hunting partner, just had a baby. I think right about the same time your niece was born.
Yeah.
A little over a week ago. And so I think he can go one day this weekend. I have a sheriff's deputy that wants to go, so might try getting one of those dumb ones behind my house again.
You gotta get that card in your pocket, right?
Yeah.
Remember that one time I got you a turkey?
At this point, I get more satisfaction at watching somebody else shoot one. To be that third person calling and hopefully get it on video.
I agree. I'm not really at the point of, like, back in the day, it used to be like when the bird was coming in, I'm like, oh, it's mine. Yeah. And then, like, now it's like you're sitting there and it's like, if you have it happen, it doesn't really matter who takes it. Once
you pull the trigger, the fun's over.
Right.
The hunt's done, and that most exciting part of my heart anyway, it's pumping right when that bird's coming in before he even gets into shooting range. He's coming. He's going to do it. That's the most exciting time.
I don't know if you were listening last week it was this week's podcast. I recorded it last week. It was with Andrew Noble and Brian Godfrey. And
it was a great episode.
Oh, Andrew got all funny at the end. He was like, I get all goofy. He was like, when I hear that spitting and drumming and it's coming at me, he goes, I get all rubbery and I'm falling apart. And he's like, oh, I don't know what to do. It's like that is hilarious. And it's so true. It's like when it hits that certain point, it's like all of a sudden it's like, holy crap.
This Tom came in, he cut at me. I never heard that from a Tom.
Really?
And right before I shot, he came in and he's looking, it seemed like he was looking me right in the eye. He just gives a, and then I took him.
You didn't get to see what happened after that, huh?
Yeah. I always feel a little sad when I'm, after it's done. I never understood that when I was younger, when people say, oh, you feel happy and remorse.
Oh, yeah.
When, you take a deer, and you skin it and butcher it, all you're left with are a bunch of bones, really. You've taken everything off it. When you're done with your turkey, it really still looks like a turkey.
Pretty much.
I mean, you take breast, legs, thighs. I don't take the wings I don't break the whole bird down for stock. I don't have that kind of time to cover my stove. But
yeah, we've never really gotten into that either. And for the most part, we kind of got into just taking the breast, but I think it was last year or the year before we started taking the legs too. And I honestly, the legs from my birds last year are still in the freezer. Like I never got a chance to try to figure out how to cook them.
But they're my favorite part.
How do you do it?
I slow cook them until you can shred it apart.
You use like a grill or?
No, just put them in a slow cooker with water. And once you could brine them first. Once you can pull them apart, add taco seasoning, put them in a pan or a barbecue sauce, and make pulled turkey sandwiches.
Oh boy, you're speaking my language.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been waiting for, is that more than the breast. But I have the tenders in the fridge, not froze, so I think they're going first. Yeah,
I think I'm gonna have to pull mine out from last year and try that. I've seen there's even like Meat Eater had some recipe for your shanks for pulled venison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've always done pulled venison with roasted steaks. But I actually took the shanks this year instead of trimming them all out for burger. So I'm definitely going to try that with those. But when you think about it, the turkey leg is pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those tendons are like toothpicks. They're rock hard. I did the same thing with my deer this year. I cut the shanks into steaks with the bone in, and I'll try to do something different with them.
Yeah. But like you were saying there, though, it's like, I don't even know if you're like this with deer, but it's like the older I've gotten, it's like the more I'm looking at this animal that I'm about to kill. And it makes you think about it like twice as much. And then it's like you get caught up. I mean, we're doing it to eat them. We're not doing it just to kill them. So it's like I am happy that I'm harvesting it for food, and I'm gonna do it. But it's like always that before thought in my mind that I'm about to kill something, and then afterwards it's like you almost get caught up in the moment and don't think about it, and then afterwards you think about it again. So it's a very, very interesting concept to me, and I don't, some of the stuff I've seen on social media this year from people harvesting things and posting pictures, it just kind of disgusts me in the way that they're going about it. But it's few and far between. But the problem with it for me is, one, the image you're portraying to other people on social media about what hunting's about and why you're doing it.
Exactly.
And number two for me is just the disrespect for the animal.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you had messaged me earlier that you wanted to talk about a couple of things. I don't know if that's along the line of what you wanted to talk about, or
that was pretty much it. Just having some sadness for it. I don't know. I think in one of the Meat Eater episodes, he talks about turkeys are a great way to introduce a new hunter because people don't have an emotional connection with birds. And I think you could almost argue that the fact that after you're done with your turkey, that it's still a turkey. You still see the whole head and it has all the feathers on it still. I take the fan off and I try to display my fans just as a way to remember it.
I think that's a very valid point that you made there, that with a turkey it's different. Like when you see deer feeding through your food plot, it's a mom and two little ones or something, and it's like, God, I don't know if I can do that. And a lot of times I won't, so it's like, I want to see multiple adult deer if there's younger ones there, because I don't want to just shoot the one that's got two little ones with it. They're going to be standing around wondering where mom went. Like, for deer, it's like you can almost humanize it. But, in a turkey population, it doesn't come across like that. I think you're 100% correct.
Yeah. I'm still that. I think that's part of the reason why I like to watch other people shoot them too, because sometimes somebody else can be even more excited than you are when you take it.
Yeah.
Seeing the expression in somebody else's face is great.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw posted today on one of the freaking social media things. Some lady shot a turkey and she's freaking, I don't know if you follow all these New York outdoors pages or not. On
several
Facebook.
of them.
But this lady was displaying her bird that she shot, and it appeared that she had no top on.
Oh, nice.
Like, yeah, it's not as nice as you'd think.
Oh, gee.
But I'm sitting there looking at it going, why? Like, what are you doing? Like, why would you take your jacket and shirts off to take a picture with the animal you just killed?
Yeah.
What is the point? Like, and it was funny because you sent me that last night. Like, do you want to talk about a couple of things? I see that this morning, and I'm like, this is exactly what we're talking about. Like, why? Because you don't even have an answer for it. It's like, why would you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty disrespectful. It's not like at that point you can let it go.
Yeah, and even if you're not talking disrespect to the animal, it's just like, it's still a question. It's like, why would you do something like that? What would tempt you to just take your clothes off and take a picture of the turkey? It's like, what is going through your head that you feel that that's a good thing to do? It's mind-boggling.
I don't understand it. For that reason, I don't use Facebook anymore. I just kind of stick to Instagram, and I don't know. The different social media outputs seem like they have some different clientele, and they're used for different things. And I really like the way Instagram's set up. And I've kind of I use my Twitter too a little bit, but I kind of went just, if you go to my Twitter, you're going to find it just redirects you to my Instagram.
Yeah, pretty much anything you see on my Facebook is coming from my Instagram, because I've gotten the same way with Facebook. I just I can't even stand it.
Well, I tried to join your turkey challenge this year, and I didn't have a Facebook, so I wasn't able to.
Yeah, you should have hit us up. We'd have figured something out.
Yeah.
But
Should've,
yeah, it
would've,
was funny because I thought you were in it when you sent us that thing. And that's when I was like, oh, I'm going to grab him and throw him on the podcast. And then I went through our list trying to figure out the stats from your bird. And I'm like, he's not on here.
No, intentions were good, but.
Yeah. No, it was good. I know you've been on before, and I wanted to have you on again. And it's good stuff.
Oh,
you know, we're trying to connect.
So entertaining.
We appreciate that. We try. It's definitely a lot of work. I mean, Billy does all these podcasts, and he asked me to help him out here this spring since he was having a kid. I mean, it's definitely a lot of work to try to keep up with all this stuff. I mean, he called me tonight. He's like, where's all your recordings from this week? I'm like, actually, I'm doing them all tonight. Because he's like normally editing them today to put them out tomorrow. So, yeah, he was looking for them, and I'm like, I actually haven't recorded any of them yet. So, yeah, I'm gonna get this one on there, and my two of my uncles got birds in the past week.
Oh, I see. Your Uncle Tim, right?
Yeah.
I think he was on week 7 of the fall of Breedinum with me.
Was he?
Yeah. He shot that big buck on the old farm, right?
Oh, that was the big boy, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's having a hell of a year.
Yeah.
I think that was the biggest turkey and the biggest buck he's ever harvested the same year.
Oh, that was a nice bird. It had a nice set of hooks on it.
Yeah, he's obviously with the 2 beards, the double beard, he's winning the overall.
Yeah.
But my Uncle Chris shot a bird with my Uncle Tim this morning, and he's winning the longest spurs right now. So I think it was 1 3/8 inches, which is just giant. Wow. Yeah.
I've never broken an inch. No.
I've never really kept track, to be honest with you. So I was trying to figure it out last year when we shot our birds. Me and my buddy Adam there shot our birds on like the 3rd day of season, 2nd or 3rd. And I was trying to figure out how to do it to like save the spurs, but not the foot. And I freaking screwed the legs all up and I ended up losing them. But I think the best thing to do is just clip them off on each side of the spur.
I use a bandsaw.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, that's what I want to do.
You can see that. And I think the next one I do, I'm not going to take the scales off, but I use a bandsaw and I polish it up with my Dremel tool, and it usually turns out pretty good.
Nice. Did we touch base on everything you wanted to get, or was there something else you wanted to talk about?
No, I know. That was great.
All right.
Everything.
Yeah, I know you said you had a couple extra things you wanted to discuss, and I know we touched base on the social media end of it last week, so I knew right where you were coming from, but it's also the whole remorse of what you're doing out there. It's not just being out there to, kill something for the fun of it,
Yeah. You don't understand that when you're 20. You do when you're a little bit older. I think it starts to come.
Yeah, I think we're in the same boat. What are you, 30?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 32. I'm about to be 31, but I think it hit me like probably 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was just all of a sudden became like actually realizing what you're doing sort of thing.
Do you remember back to Hunter's Ed? I think it was right in our handbook. And when you start out hunting, it's just about how many of whatever you can take or kill. You go out with your BB gun and how many, chickadees can I stack up? How many bluegill can I catch in one sitting? Then it goes into you want something a little bit bigger. Then you turn into a trophy hunter. And then usually I think it hits most people in late 30s, 40s. You just want the biggest of whatever. And eventually it moves to you want to see somebody else take the animal.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten to the point where, like, with turkeys, deer hunting, I'm not normally hunting with somebody else.
Yeah.
So it's not so much seeing somebody else. I guess if you have something that's around, and somebody takes it, I guess that would be seeing somebody else take it.
Mhm.
As far as like if you had a big buck around and just seeing somebody harvest it is an awesome thing. But as far as like turkey hunting, you're normally hunting with somebody. So for somebody to sitting next to you to take it, it's almost no different than you taking it. You get to sit there through the whole experience. You just didn't pull the trigger. And then like, I don't know, it's gotta be 4 years ago now. My buddy Adam shot that freaking huge black bear up in the Adirondacks.
Mhm.
And we were in the same tree with 2 hang-ons. And that bear came out right about the time we were getting ready to get down. And it was in the bushes on the edge of a bog feeding on all the berries. And I'm sitting there looking at it going, I've shot a bear before. He hasn't. And also, I can't get a good rest. And I'm not going to take a wobbly shot at a bear.
Yeah.
So, I'm like, if you can find a rest, take a shot. And he ended up, his tree stand was facing the other way, and it was a little bit lower than mine. So he was actually able to use my platform as a rest and stick his gun barrel out like right at my legs. So I see like the gun barrel slide out, and I'm like spread my legs as wide as I can on my platform. And I'm just watching the bear through my scope, and I'm like, I don't have a good shot. And he's like, I'm on him. And I'm like, if he shows himself, because he wasn't really showing himself, all we had was like the head and the neck.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, if you got a rest and he shows himself, take a shot. And he took that shot, and that bear freaking did a cartwheel, and that was it. But it was 100 yards and 5 foot, growth in the bog.
Yeah.
So after the shot, I mean, we saw him do like a somersault, cartwheel, whatever, but we never could tell like if he ran off or not.
Mhm.
Like as soon as he shot, like I jumped up, and I'm like, in my scope following the trail where you think he would have been going, and there's nothing happening. And I'm like, well, where the hell did he go? And then like 15 seconds later, he started the death moan, and he was laying right there. He just rolled over. So,
Mhm.
but that's part of the, I was just as happy to see him shoot it, as me shoot it myself. So,
Yeah.
it was something that he hadn't killed before. And then we get over to it, and we're walking up to the spot, and it's like, it's gotta be almost 7:00 at night. And it's like, you got maybe 25 minutes of light left, and we got over a mile out. And I'm walking behind him, and we're walking up to the spot, and we find the bear laying there, and he stops and looks at me, and I'm like, "Is your bear? Touch it." So he walks up and touches it, and it was a great shot. He double lunged it. It was done right there. But we ended up having to walk out because the game sled was in the back of my truck. And I called my uncle, and my truck was locked, and they were in the other parking area. And they were like, well, we're going to have to come over and meet up with you, and we'll go in and get it. And I'm like, I don't think you guys understand how big this bear is. Like, we're not dragging this thing out of the woods. And he's like, we've done it with every bear we've shot up here before. He's like, we're going to get it done. He's like, we need that game sled out of the back of your truck. I'm like, okay. So we freaking hike all the way out, meet him at the back of the truck, grab the game sled, walk back in. As soon as we turned the corner on the bog and showed him the bear, he was like, that ain't coming out of here tonight. So, I mean, that's a whole other story in itself. But we ended up hanging the thing in a tree and coming back the next day with like 9 people in backpacks and quartering the thing out and carrying it out of there. But we had a scale. We had a scale from in town. I went to I think the guy used to have a guide service there, and that's how my family started hunting this property.
Mhm.
And we went in there, and I started talking to the guy, and it was funnier than hell because he pointed at a picture on the wall. Because I told him, our family's been hunting in there for 20 some years, and I think somebody who was running this place started them in there, as a guide service. And the guy was like, he walked right over to the wall, and he goes, "Was it a tall, skinny guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know, maybe." And he walks over to the wall, and he points at this picture from like 25 years ago. And he's like, "That's your uncle, right?" And sure as shit, it was my uncle. He took my uncle in and guided him. They got a bear the first year in, and that guy remembered that from 25 years ago.
Wow.
So I went in asking for a scale, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't think I have one." And then I was talking to him, telling him why I wanted a scale. And then he figured out who I was, and he was like, "I think I got a scale back here." He's like, "Just bring it back to me. Bring it back to me when you're done with it." I'm like, "No problem." But that scale went to 350, I think.
Oh, wow.
Or 325. And we were like, if you follow the increments, that scale was at least 100 pounds over what it was capable of reading. So, I mean, that was a 400 plus pound bear. It was giant.
Yeah.
But it's all part of the experience. I was right there when he shot it. It's just as good as shooting it yourself, I feel like.
Yeah, it is. We hunt up to camp in a big group all the time. I've been in those circumstances where you got to track an animal and you're the guy that's the only one of all this group that knows how to track. There's one in particular a couple years ago. This guy shot a bear, and I dry tracked it for a long ways and went down a hill. You could see where it rolled down the hill. This is probably 100 yards after the shot. I'm thinking, well, he must have put a decent shot on it because no uninjured bear is just going to roll down a hill.
Right.
And it gets into the swamp, and I start picking up blood. Then you can see where it's wobbling and bumping into trees. And I take another step, and I look over this big log, and there it is. And it sits up and looks at me. You can see the teeth. And I throw my gun up, and I put it right on its neck. And I think, wait, that's kind of rude. I turn my head, and I go, "Hey, Ron, what are you going to do with this bear?" Then it goes to get up, and I just throw the gun back up, and bang, down he goes.
That is crazy. I mean, bear hunting is like a totally another element.
It is.
When you're tracking a deer, you're not worried about what you're going to come up on.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but in some circumstances, it can be just as dangerous. And I think we're raised from when we're little kids that bears can get you. Most of the time, they're going to run the other way.
Exactly. Yeah, any bear that I've seen in the woods is more scared of you than you are of it at the end of it.
Exactly.
Well, hey, I got 6 o'clock. I got to hop on here with, so I appreciate you jumping on, and congratulations. Good.
Thanks, Jim.
Good catching up with you, and wish you luck the rest of the season.
Yeah, you too. Hopefully you get your Jake.
I don't care what it is. I'll shoot it. Keep feeding them.
Yeah, have a good one.
See ya.
Bye.